Hey guys, welcome to the American Tribune Live. I am Todd Peterson, and great news, we are welcoming our Facebook friends today. Finally able to stream it on Facebook because I don't think we're going to get too spicy today. We have talked Fauci, RFK, hoaxes. There's some words around the Facebook sphere that they don't like us so much, so we didn't want to nuke our pages. We have done plenty of storytelling on our other podcast, Freedom from the Press. You can hear all about the things Facebook has done to us over the years. We do business on Facebook. We have a great audience on Facebook. My Facebook audience, if you're watching live today, thanks for joining. Drop some comments in the chat as we're going about our show here. But welcome aboard. So we are on Facebook today, YouTube, the free speech platform of Rumble. So that's my channel, the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. If you're watching on Facebook, watching on YouTube, head over to Rumble, download the app, watch it in your desktop, but search out the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. And that's where you can find extra shows, extra commentary. We talk about things that big tech censors still don't like. And yes, Mark Zuckerberg reportedly helping out the Trump inauguration, donating $1 million or so. Not enough. That is not enough. How about some apologies? How about reactivating some accounts? How about working with your dev team to make sure that they don't censor conservative speech? But we are on Facebook today. Welcome aboard, folks. A lot to dive into today. Theme of the show is how Dems are doubling down on pure insanity. Dems refuse to learn from their election defeat, a resounding mandate given to Donald Trump, White House, the swing states, the popular vote, the Electoral College, all of it. Donald Trump got all of it. Not going to get into the other tidbits of that today, but just know that moving forward, it is not Democrats that will be obstacles to Trump's administration. It will be the rhinos in Washington, D.C. Joni Ernst is the face of it right now during the Pete Hegseth nonsense, but it is Republicans in Washington, D.C. that are going to be the problem for Donald Trump over the next 4 years because we control all the branches of government. So if anything doesn't happen, blame your rhinos and then pay attention during the primary process to get rid of them. Ernst, McConnell, Graham, there are so many others. I think they just held a convention in D.C. and they blasted all these Republican names speaking at some anti-Trump convention. So lots of work to do within the Republican Party still. But again, not the focus of the show today. We're talking about how Dems refuse to learn from their mistakes. I think it's baked into the cake, to be honest. I think part of being I'll say leftist Democrat in this case, I go in lots of conversations or lots of rants about my normie Democrat friends. These are people that just believed all the lies they were told. Hey, go to school, go get a job, go get married, go buy a house in the suburbs. They're just these normie friends living in some normie cocoon, their suburban world. They work hard. They love their kids. They love their families and friends, but they do not pay attention to politics. So I'm not necessarily talking about them in this case. We're not even talking about the voters, although I do have some comments about voters. Like Dem voters refuse to learn too. Even after everything they complained about for 4 years under the Biden administration, apparently 48% of them were like, I want more of that. I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. So lots of explaining to do in the Democrat voter side. But today, specifically talking about the Democrat elites, the politicians, the media, they just refuse to learn. And like I said, it's baked into the cake for these folks. Part of being a leftist, part of being a Democrat is being unable to self-reflect, analyze, be honest. How many examples? I did an entire Trump episode on the hoaxes. Like they cannot be honest. If you were honest, were able to reflect, you wouldn't be a Democrat at this point. So because it is a religious worldview, and yes, it is a religion for these folks, it's more than just anti-Trump. It is about believing in the power of the state, the goodness of the state. It is believing the media lies, whatever they tell you. It's coming right from the pulpit. So these people, because they cannot be honest with themselves, cannot be honest with you, cannot self-reflect, they are Democrats still. So no wonder they haven't learned from their defeat. They're doubling down on these insane policies, doubling down on running these same awful candidates. And in 4 years, they're going to look around and be like, why did we lose the White House again? Why did we lose more Senate seats? Why did we lose the margin in the House? Like these people will continue to lose because Americans, by and large, are fed up with it. They see through the lies of the media. They look at what Democrats have to offer and say, I don't want any of that. I value freedom and money. Thank you very much. I don't want to give the state any more of my money. I don't want to give the state any more power. I don't want to believe the media lies anymore. But these Democrat elites, they're just going to keep doing what they do. They are powering through all of the rejection from the American people. They're going to say, if we only message this harder, if we just say we're going to take more freedom from you, we're going to take more of your money, we're going to start more foreign wars, maybe the American people will be like, let's give it a chance. And guess what, folks? We've been given that a chance for a long time, decades now, my entire life, and I'm done with it. The American people are done with it. Michael Delfino, thanks for tuning in on Facebook. Michael writes, Democrats are morons. They want pardons after saying they did nothing wrong for 4 years. I mean, make it make sense. Absolutely, Michael. I mean, you could point to how many examples here. The pardons are a great point. Oh, we never broke the law. It was Donald Trump that broke the law. Let's do lawfare against Donald Trump. No, we'll never pardon Hunter Biden. I got a clip on KJP today, Michael, about how they refused to admit that they were always going to pardon Hunter, lied about not pardoning him, and now lying about the reasons for pardoning him, getting mad at you for asking questions. Yeah. If you didn't do anything wrong, J6 committee members, if you didn't do anything wrong, Adam Schiff, if you didn't do anything wrong, Anthony Fauci, if you didn't do anything wrong, Hunter Biden, why do you need pardons? They won't answer the question. They're just like, presidents have always pardoned people. And have you seen the numbers, folks? Donald Trump, if the number is correct on the top of my head, don't fact check me, Facebook, I'm guessing here. I think I saw 237 pardons from Donald Trump, which is the low. Biden has already pardoned more than 8,000 people. He has set a record, and he's still got a month to go. Goodness knows who he's going to give a blanket pardon to. Is it Chris Wray? Is it Alejandro Mayorkas? And again, nobody answers the question, why do you need a pardon if you didn't commit a crime? And the best the left can do when they talk about this, say, well, Donald Trump can still lawfare them. He can still investigate them, and that's expensive. These poor people would go bankrupt during the investigation process. And it's like, yes, please. Even if they never spend a day in jail, which many of these corrupt politicians and bureaucrats should, even if they never spend a day in jail, I want them to spend millions of dollars in their legal defense. And then you just point out, you're like, okay, if it's a problem to lawfare folks, where were you when Donald Trump was getting lawfared for 4 years? Nobody complained. Nobody on the left complained when Donald Trump was getting dragged to court in Florida, in Georgia, in multiple New York City cases, spending millions of dollars on his defense, getting fined outrageous sums of money in the E. Jean Carroll case, as it were. Nobody said anything. They were like, good, make Donald Trump spend money. And then all of a sudden on the other side, they're like, oh no, it's bad that we do lawfare because that could hurt people in their pocketbook. So they never know what they're talking about. They have no principles. When you talk about leftism, voting Democrat at this point being a religion, absolutely. And it is a unprincipled religion. They only care about power, and they can only think in the moment. These people cannot think 2 steps ahead. Hey, if we do this to Donald Trump right now, maybe he'll do it back to us. They don't think like that. They're just in the moment. That's all they can do. They live in the present. They don't live in the future. They just say, Donald Trump bad, let's get Donald Trump. And then they wonder why things go in the other direction when Donald Trump gets back in power. Got Tommy checking in over on Facebook. Thanks for tuning in, Tommy. Thanks for watching the show. Democrat Party is dying. Yeah, look, I did my very first post-election podcast on why I am so optimistic. It's because of stuff like this, where Dems refuse to learn from their mistakes, and not just refuse to learn. Maybe the wording was incorrect there. Unable to learn from their mistakes. That's the whole point of the show. They are unable to admit where they were wrong. They're unable to say, I'm sorry. They're unable to reflect. And so it's more than just refusing to see all these things happening. It is a complete inability to see these things happening. But why I'm so optimistic is because Democrats aren't going to change, and the American people are done with it. We didn't need corporate media in this last election cycle. We have X, we've got independent podcasts, we've got Donald Trump doing a social media stuff. We don't need corporate media anymore. We see through the lies of corporate media. And if they're going to keep saying Trump bad, here's a new hoax for the day, here's why the American people are dumb, more and more people are just going to tune out. More and more people are going to go vote for Trump next time, or whoever Trump, you could say, appoints or nominates. If it's J.D. Vance that picks up the mantle, if it's Vivek who picks up the mantle, if it's an up-and-comer who picks up the mantle in 2028, whoever Republicans run in the America First movement, they're only going to get more votes. Who did Donald Trump get in the 2024 election that's not going to vote for him next time after they see all of the winning happen? They're going to see the war wind down in the Middle East. They're going to see wars wind down in Eastern Europe. They're going to see a secure border. They're going to see tough on crime policies. They're going to see lower taxes. They're going to see Mexico, Canada, China paying their fair share. They're going to see the American economy boom when we can manufacture things at home that we used to pay for manufacturing overseas. Folks, let me know in the comments below. Every now and then we get a troll in there and they're like, oh, but Donald Trump's policies are bad. So far, I have not seen a single bad thing come out of Donald Trump. Everything that we voted this man for is happening already. He's not even been sworn in. Imagine 4 years of peace around the world, military drawdowns, a secure border, less crime. People are going to have nothing to run against him in 2028. More and more people are just going to tune out to the media, because when the media lies about, oh, but Donald Trump's doing this, and they're looking around, they're like, well, life is better now under Donald Trump. He's only going to get more voters. So yes, the Democrat Party is dying. I am extremely optimistic. Waste of time to educate these morons, Barbara says. Yeah, I'm going to do a separate episode on how we need to educate the voters. This episode is particularly related to about the Democrat elites. I'm not interested in educating the elites. I'm all here. I'm for it, folks. I am all here for these Dems doubling down. I got clips of Kamala. I got clips of David Hogg. I got clips of KJP. I got clips of CNN. Wait till you see what the Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson did on Broadway this last week. I want all of it. I want them to continue doing this. I am celebrating the fact that they are unable to reflect because it only helps us in the next elections. Deborah, little prayer hand. Yep. Democrats are dying. This is a good thing. And the fact that Democrats refuse to learn, are unable to learn, even better for us. By all means, run Kamala Harris in 2028. Run her as governor in California. I want all of this to happen. If they're going to continue with the same bad politicians and the same bad policies, it is great news for the rest of America. But let's get into some clips, folks. Thanks for the comments. Again, I'm on Facebook because we got a massive Facebook audience. We've got 1 million followers on just the one page I'm streaming on, and this is the American Tribune. My Facebook friends, my Facebook viewers today, check us out at Rumble at the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. Again, sometimes I don't always stream on Facebook because you just can't. You just can't right now. Even with Trump coming into office, even with Mark Zuckerberg donating $1 million to the inauguration fund, still a little sketchy on Facebook things we can say. I had a YouTube video removed, not just demonetized, but straight up removed 2 weeks ago when I was talking about RFK and what RFK was planning to do in the Trump administration, just looking for answers. He's just seeking out answers, trying to educate the American people. YouTube didn't like that, so they took the video down. So we can't always talk about things we want to say on YouTube, on Facebook. But again, welcome aboard, Facebook folks. This is the first time we're streaming on the American Tribune page. Again, operating under the American Tribune banner. I'm just going to do a little PSA for where you can find all of our content, and then we're going to dive into the clips of, again, Dems doubling down, refusing, unable to learn from their election loss. But you can find daily written content at theamericantribune.com. We have a main Rumble channel, the American Tribune. I'm on the American Tribune Live channel over on Rumble. YouTube page is the American Tribune. Check out the Christian Tribune as well. We started a second website, just some daily news stories related to Christianity, strengthen your faith, pointing out some absurd things that people are saying against Christianity. But two great websites to check out, theamericantribune.com, thechristiantribune.com. And if you want to get into stuff that we definitely can't talk about on Facebook, check out theamericantribune.news. That is a Substack written by one of our business partners. Goes into extensive detail, well-researched, well-written stuff. And again, things you can't talk about on main social media platforms, but definitely eye-opening when it comes to your government and what your government is trying to do to you. All right, let's get into some clips. Thanks again for tuning in here. We are the American Tribune Live. In no particular order here, I hate to do this to you folks. I hate to do this to myself. Let's take a listen to Kamala Harris. She was recently giving some remarks, and let's see how she's doing.
The holiday season is one of my favorite times of year, that and my birthday. and our wedding anniversary, of course.
I can't believe people voted for this. I can't believe this was almost the next president of the United States. Oh, I love my birthday. What adult? Again, if you're an adult celebrating your birthday, there are so many red flags with Kamala Harris. The cackling, the I love my birthday. No adult thinks about their birthday. No adult should think about their birthday. But there she is out there just giggling it up. Who knows if she had any liquid courage before speaking up there. Oh, yeah, and my wedding anniversary. Rumors are that Doug Emhoff wants to leave Kamala Harris. I don't know why you would marry Kamala Harris to begin with. I don't know why you would stay with Kamala Harris if you did choose to marry her. But this woman is absurd. I'm not going to play longer clips of her talking and coping about the election laws. I just had to show some Kamala Harris saying, this is where she's at right now, just giggling up a storm. Apparently, they're not worried about Donald Trump becoming president. She's able to find some joy. I'm glad she found some joy eventually after haranguing the American voter for so long. Her and her president, her boss, called us all domestic terrorists, but I'm glad she can find some joy. You know, we're a month away from Donald Trump getting sworn in, and for so long they said, he's going to be like the German dictator. You know, he held these rallies that were reminiscent of other rallies at Madison Square Garden. He's a threat to democracy. Apparently, that's not a thing anymore, folks. Like, there are so many hoaxes, but when you think about what's the biggest hoax, Russian collusion was pretty bad. Charlottesville, Joe Biden launched his 2020 campaign on the Charlottesville hoax of fine people. I mean, Kamala's out there campaigning about officers dying on January 6th still. But when it comes to him being the mustachioed guy, where's her concern anymore? She's out there giggling it up with her supporters And again, who's a Kamala Harris supporter? I don't know how you go to sleep at night. I don't know how you put pants on in the morning if you vote for Kamala Harris. I don't see a lot of like ominous, like, oh no, we're so worried. In 1 month, we're going to have the mustachioed guy back in the White House. That just went away. It was all a lie. It was a campaign lie. It was fomented by the media. People out there still think it. Kamala Harris doesn't think about it. Otherwise, why is she laughing? She should be terrified that we're going to lose democracy. We're going to have the F word. I can't even say some of the words, some of the political viewpoints of those parties because I'm on Facebook right now. Apparently, that's not a thing anymore. Apparently, we're just able to laugh and have fun, and it is what it is.
Just going to keep digging this hole deeper and deeper. So,
man, she is so bad at speaking. Again, people almost voted for this, and I love the reports that Kamala Harris is like, when you poll Democrats, they're like, I want Kamala to run again in 2028. And my response is, yes, please. Run Kamala Harris again. We got Susan Wren checking in over on Facebook. Susan, thanks for tuning into the program. Cackle, cackle. I don't get it. I don't understand the appeal at any level of Kamala Harris. You could look at her intelligence, and I've gone on record. I'll say it again. The intelligence is concerning. More concerning to me are her policies. If you had someone on the America First side and they had the same IQ as Kamala Harris, but they said, I value limited government, I value the end of foreign wars, I value secure borders. I mean, I can live with low intelligence if you have the right ideas. I'm only sending you to government to do the least amount of harm as possible. You don't have to be Mensa level to operate constitutionally. So intelligence aside, it's a red flag because the totality of Kamala Harris is just so awful. Everything about her is awful. The intelligence, the cackling, it just shows how unserious she is. They're always like, Donald Trump doesn't represent the White House. You know, I want someone that is befitting of the office, of the station of president. And then they voted for Kamala Harris, and you just want to ask them, what do you think it means to befit the office of the president? Cackling? Referencing your birthday? This is a child. This is a literal child, but you're going to tell me that Donald Trump's not fit to be president of the White House because president of the United States and live in the White House. Doesn't make sense. Andrew, just more word salad with rotten tomatoes. Yeah, the word salad is incredible. I had to cut all that out. I honestly, I want her to run again. I can't do any more Kamala clips. I can't do any more of the word salad stuff. I just can't with Kamala anymore. But here's what they're talking about. Run for president. I think her and AOC are like the top contenders right now, which is just insane. And by insane, I mean bring it on. I would love for some America First candidate running on Donald Trump's 4 years of successes, going up toe-to-toe against a Kamala or an AOC, and what are they going to campaign on? But here we go. Let's go over to CNN because CNN says Kamala's not going away. Yeah, Cindy says it's so hard to listen to her. It is impossible to listen to her, Cindy. Thanks for checking in. Maybe if she doesn't run for president, maybe she'll run for governor. Again, please run for governor. Let's take a listen.
I mean, this feels like it has a real...
No, wrong clip. Let's, here's our CNN clip.
What she's been saying to people over the last couple of weeks, donors, other supporters that she's been talking with, is you haven't seen the last of me. I'm not going quietly into the night. Advisors, people close to her, are debating about what that means. They do not want her final official act ever to be essentially certifying Donald Trump's win over her, especially 4 years after.
Folks, just remember, it will be Kamala Harris certifying the election. Kamala Harris will be right there saying Donald Trump's the next president. That's going to be a fantastic, glorious moment. But I'm going to parse his words for a second, and then we'll get into the commentary about becoming California's next gubernatorial candidate for some reason. Again, please be the next governor candidate. It's not about what's doing the right thing for America. It is about self-serving. Her advisors recognize that they have a candidate that should not run, but is running and is present. They don't want to lose their jobs. So they're not looking around the landscape saying, excuse me, they're not looking around saying, what's best for the American people? Who's a better candidate? What policy should we maybe run on instead of open borders and endless war and higher taxation and price controls and all the rest? They're not saying what's good for this country, what's good for this people. They're saying what's good for my job security. How can we get Kamala Harris to run another campaign, get tens, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars in the case of running for president? They see a gravy train. They can see that they can print money. Again, it is not about you, the voter. It is not about doing right by you, the American citizen. It is doing what is good for them. It is self-serving. They don't want this to be her last hurrah, her ride into the sunset, as he says. Like, enough of the idioms. They don't care about you. They don't care about this country. They care about Kamala Harris running so they can collect a paycheck. And that's all this is.
January 6th. And so they look at this governor's race in California in 2026, and it seems to them like a layup, essentially, that she would probably clear the field or mostly clear the field, and she would get to be governor of California. It's a pretty good job, right? It was good enough for Ronald Reagan and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jerry Brown. But if she does that, that means that she couldn't turn around and run for president again in 2028, right? She'd need to essentially declare right away. And that is what it really comes down to, because
does anybody believe that? Again, the media has not learned their lesson. They will always lie to you. That's why I only play these clips to point out how they lie. You can learn nothing from them other than the fact that here's what their agenda is. Does anybody believe that for a second? Again, not the point of the video, but we'll make a comment on this. She's going to run for governor, and let's say she wins. She can't run for president. Like, why? Why? How would that not bolster her run for president when you can add governor to the resume? And because Democrat voters love credentials, they love impressive resumes. Hillary Clinton should have been the best president ever because of her resume. Instead of just looking at what people believe in, their priorities, their values, like a Donald Trump, he didn't need to hold office before to be a great president because he believes the right things. But why couldn't she run for president if she were governor too? I could only see that helping her, in terms of Democrats loving, oh, look, she's governor. She has executive experience now. Never mind the fact she's been vice president for 4 years and has lots of experience ruining this country. I just don't understand why she couldn't run for president. But here we go. They're talking about her being a slam dunk to be governor of California. And honestly, why wouldn't she be a slam dunk? California voters, it's beyond hopeless out in California. Beautiful state, a very red state once you get out of the big cities. But name recognition, why would anyone vote for Kamala Harris? I still don't understand how 48% of this country allegedly voted for Kamala Harris to be president. I, for the life of me, cannot understand what is appealing about her policies. And I know I made a comment earlier, this is not a show about voters. I will do a separate episode about Dem voters being unable to see what is good for them. Like, I always tell a Dem voter, you're welcome, because I voted for Donald Trump and I made your life better. When Donald Trump is in office, every American's life will get better. You're welcome, Dem voter. You voted against your own self-interest. We'll explore that in a later episode. But here these idiots are talking, we got to keep Kamala there for reasons, I guess, because if I'm an advisor, do I want to be out of a job or do I want to keep pushing her somewhere? But man, if she runs for governor, bring it on. Bring it on. Make her run for governor. Make her run for president. I want them to push Kamala Harris out in the public eye as much as possible because she is so bad at what she does. I honestly think, and I said this in other episodes too when we broke down the election, I think if Joe Biden stays in the race, and I especially think if they nominated Michelle Obama to go up against Donald Trump, I think it's a much closer election. I think Michelle Obama might actually have won the 2024 election. The Obamas were awful. Obama policies were awful, but you have the Michelle Obama feel-good story. You can't really get into a lot of dirt on her. And with just a 3 or 4 month turnaround, how much time do you have to expose people? Well, I take that back. We had Tim Walz go on the ticket, and we found lots of stuff on him in just 3 or 4 months. But I think the election is different with a Michelle Obama or maybe a Joe Biden even, but they ran Kamala Harris. So by all means, keep pushing Kamala Harris out there. The American people do not want Kamala Harris, and these morons out there on media within her circle are like, we need more Kamala. So again, yes, please, keep Kamala in the forefront.
There are people close to her who say she didn't get a fair shot this year. It wasn't up to what she could have done, and look how well she.
Is anybody saying that? He said it. Is anyone saying she didn't get a fair shot? She had 4 years as vice president. We know exactly what she stands for. She campaigned in 2020. We know what she's about socializing healthcare, about stopping our independence on energy when it comes to oil and natural gas. We know where Kamala Harris stands. She's been on clips saying she wants to confiscate your guns. She had this idea of price controls because it's that dastardly grocery store that's jacking up prices. The grocery store is greedy owners and business managers that are jacking up prices of groceries, not our horrible policies, not the Inflation Reduction Act that did the opposite of what it promised to do. I can't think of a single person that was like, she didn't get a fair shake. Let's see. She had the entire backing of the media apparatus. She had the entire backing of the establishment. Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Mitt Romney switched teams to campaign for her. She had all the celebrities. How did she not get a fair shake? It comes down to the fact that the American people finally see through the lies. All they do is lie. All they do is promote terrible policies for you. Yeah, Andrew comments, don't think America wants Obama's anymore. I do agree at this point. I think moving forward, the Obama legacy is tarnished, it's destroyed. I don't think Michelle runs in 2028. She said she never wanted it. I don't know if those people have a choice. Like, they have so much dirt on them. Like, no, you're going to run because we said you're going to run. But yeah, the Obama legacy absolutely destroyed as well. So I think we're done with that at this point, thankfully. Got Mary checking in over on Facebook. She says they lie. This drone thing is probably a smokescreen to distract the people from something they're doing in the background. That is always how it plays out. Yeah, why don't we know about these drones? I see them up there. I see all the drones in the sky. That's not normal. But then they're just like, no, this is normal.
Performed anyway. She should get to go again in 2028. And then there are ones who say, look, with where things are with the Democratic Party, she would not have a clear field, a cleared field, rather, in the Democratic primary, and could lose the nomination. And to come off of 2024 into that would be...
I mean, if you're an honest person, which Democrats cannot be honest, so that's why we're even having this conversation, Kamala Harris should go away forever. If you're just a political junkie, and by that, you're just a power-hungry partisan, you don't care about the American people, it's all about the establishment and swamp and your own money, Kamala Harris should not be anywhere near politics ever again. If they were able to reflect, able to analyze, able to look at the landscape, they would all agree we can't get Kamala Harris anywhere near a position of politics again. But they don't. And this guy is out there saying, well, that'd be really bad if she lost the nomination again. Yeah, she probably should lose the nomination, and she shouldn't be running in the first place. Phil writes, we never want to see another Democrat in office again, period. Amen, Phil. Amen to that. And again, it's not like Democrats. I played another clip. I couldn't find it for the show here. I think it was Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett was doing some appearance about how we lost, we won the votes if people tuned into mainstream media, basically admitting that, like, yes, we brainwashed folks, and the folks that vote Democrat have been brainwashed by the corporate media outlets. And she said, we need to work on messaging. And I commented on that, and I said, you know what? Maybe instead of working on your messaging, maybe you should work on your actual policy positions. They think they need to just lie to you better about Kamala Harris being a good candidate. They need to lie to you about, oh no, it's actually a good thing we have wide open borders. It's actually a good thing crime is taking over cities. It's a good thing we're sending billions of dollars overseas. They just think they need to message the American people better. They're basically calling you stupid, when in fact, if Democrats wanted to win again, and I hate to help Democrats out, maybe don't run on terrible policies. Messaging is a problem for sure for these folks, but you know what's worse than messaging? Their policies. Americans don't want these Democrat policies anymore because they're all insane and they all do real harm. And in some cases, they just promote actual evil. It's not a messaging problem. It's not a candidate problem. It is a policy platform problem. Democrats have terrible policies. So like Phil said, I never want to see a Democrat again. And honestly, the way things are going right now, maybe we don't. Because Americans, it's not just me saying it. It's not just our Facebook audience saying it. Folks on Facebook, thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for commenting. Again, check us out on Rumble at the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. They refuse to learn. Let's just package it up better. Let's just sell it better. No. How about you just have actual policies that work? All right. So there is Kamala Harris running for governor. Yeah, Andrew, great comment there. Thanks for chiming in again. Dems treat citizens like we are children. 100%. They think you're a child. That's why they think they should be in charge of you, because they don't think you deserve freedom. They don't think you can handle freedom. And in some cases, some Americans cannot handle their freedom. But they absolutely patronize us. They condescend us every single day. This just in, we don't need the federal government to do most of the things the federal government does. I want them to secure the border. I want them in charge of national security. I want them to manage commerce and other arrangements between the states. There's very little the federal government needs to do, but they go in there and they think, I'm better than you. I know what you need. I'm going to enact all of these insane policies and govern your life. And we just don't need it. Enough American people are just like, I'm done with this. I don't need the federal government to take care of me. But Dem voters, they want to remain children. They want someone else to take care of everything. They don't want to have to think about it. And so in some cases, yes, Dems treat citizens like we're children. But guess what? Dem voters want to be a child too. They want big government daddy to take care of them in every single way. I got to play this clip next. This is completely unrelated to Kamala Harris, but this is where they're at. They're not thinking like, how can I present myself in a better way? How can I produce better outcomes for the American people? You've got Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson fulfilling a childhood dream, apparently, of appearing on Broadway. And because she's a DEI hire in the Supreme Court, why not just hand it to her? It's not like she went out there and auditioned. I'll play the clip in a second. It is cringe because Broadway redid Romeo and Juliet, the timeless love tale between a boy and a girl. And they decided to make it a queer retelling of they, thems falling in love. Absolutely wild stuff. But again, she fulfilled a childhood dream because she asked. Like, she didn't earn this appearance on Broadway. Nobody wanted to see her on Broadway. You're going to see her acting. She doesn't deserve to be on Broadway. I don't know what else to say about this. This is just insane.
Male empowerment. Sick. I like it too. I think what I like about it is that I am having a very strongly negative reaction to it. Like I hate it. Which makes me think it must be brilliant.
Got this feeling in my body. Can't stop the feeling. Got this feeling in my body. I can't stop the feeling.
I did it. I made it to Broadway.
I'm going to go on record, and DEI is so awful to these people. Ketanji Brown Jackson knows she didn't earn a spot on Broadway. She knows she didn't earn a spot on the Supreme Court. She got there because, well, she got on Broadway because she's on the Supreme Court. She got on the Supreme Court because she's a black woman, and that's what Joe Biden promised to do. My God, this was just cringe. Like, the entire production of that play is cringe. And then you see her on stage, and you're like, this woman doesn't belong anywhere near theater. Everything about this is ridiculous. But this is where we're at. This is what they like to do. It is just about them. I'm a sitting Supreme Court justice. And remember, we talked about how Donald Trump, he's not befitting of the office, you know, this and that about Donald Trump. I just want a commander-in-chief that is respected on the world stage, whatever that means. I don't care about world respect, by the way. I want them to fear us. The world should fear America. That is it. I don't care if they don't like us. I don't care if they don't respect us, which they do respect us, by the way, but I don't care about that. Ketanji Brown Jackson, is that befitting of a Supreme Court justice? Again, it's not a double standard. They just have no standards. Me. My God, did you see my face while that clip was playing? This is just beyond words at this point. This is what Democrats are all about. Again, not learning their lesson. Who does this appeal to? Is this turning people on to the Democrat Party and the communist way of thinking? She's never been right about, I'm going to get fact check on that statement. She has never intentionally been right about any decision of the Supreme Court, does not know what the Constitution says, couldn't tell you a constitutional argument to begin with, but I'm glad she got to go on Broadway in an appearance that she did not earn. This whole woman's career at this point is now not having earned anything. Roger says you can't fix stupid. Stupid still. Disgusting, writes Brian. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Philip writes, California can do much better with someone else, referencing our Kamala Harris conversation. They will do better without a Democrat. Honestly, Democrats are all interchangeable. Kamala, Gavin, Schiff, they're all the same. These people are all the same. They do not care about you. Apathy is much worse than hatred. They do not care about you whatsoever. They're in it for themselves. They're in it for their own profit. Let's see. Oh, we got so many comments coming in. I was trying to pop up this one. If the Democrats keep doing what the American people don't want, they will become an extinct political party. Ramona, you nailed it. I think this is where we're headed. This is why I'm so optimistic. They keep doubling down on every single policy that is harmful to the American people. Either we don't want it at best, or it is downright harmful at worst, and we don't want it anymore. And what do the Democrats do? They keep pushing it. Hey, we should have open borders. Hey, we should do foreign wars. Hey, we should do more taxation. Hey, we should do price controls. Hey, we should do this and that to your kids. We don't want it anymore. And they keep saying, let's just fix the messaging around our horrible policies. Yeah, they should become extinct. But honestly, if we need a foil for the America First movement, by all means, Democrats, keep doing this and then keep losing elections and then keep wondering why you lost elections. Like, you cannot make this stuff up. All right, we got to get rid of a few comments in here. Folks, if you see a pretty girl in the comments and she says she wants to be your friend, just ignore it. There are no real life pretty girls on Facebook genuinely interested in your friendship. So I got to delete some of these comments here. I am blocking them. Everybody say goodbye to Jessica here. No, she doesn't think you're handsome. I mean, I get trolled on Twitter all the time. They take a screenshot of my profile pic and they say that I'm ugly. So I know Jessica's not telling the truth. So I'm just going to delete some of Jessica's comments here. And I will invite the chat. Right now we have a very friendly chat here. Every now and then you get someone on there that's like, ooh, Orange Man bad. I welcome your comments as well. I'm always civil in these disagreements. I would love for someone to tell me I'm wrong so far on the other side and say, you tell me how Trump is failing the American people. You tell me how a single Kamala Harris policy would have worked to your benefit. And they never can. They just go, but Trump said this about women 15 years ago, or he cheated on his wife. And then you just want to look at them and say, like, do you realize all these guys are corrupt? Do you realize that Congress has a taxpayer-funded slush fund to pay off all the improprieties that take place on the Hill? You think everyone else is a saint and Donald Trump is uniquely a bad, immoral person? These people are so brainwashed, so brainwashed. Okay, I had to read this before I posted it. We got Scott chiming in on Facebook. Before Newsom runs for president, donate your paychecks to the Gavin Needs a Bigger Swimming Pool Fund. Man, I cannot believe Gavin Newsom got reelected after what he did during the pandemic. It is Tim Walz, where I live in Minnesota, same thing. After everything they did to you during the pandemic, BLM riots, the voters were just like, I would like more of that, please. Sometimes there are no explanations. All right, so we had to do I had to get this Ketanji Brown Jackson clip out of the way. It is just absurd. And again, can you imagine? They never would. Like a Clarence Thomas would never do this. It is so debasing and humiliating. But these people, outside of being unable to reflect or learn or be honest, they're unable to have shame. We need to make shaming great again. Ketanji Brown Jackson should have been so embarrassed to do this. And she's reading those silly lines. Did you notice that she giggled too? Here, I'm going to play the clip again one more time before we move on. Just look at her demeanor up there. It's like those bad Jimmy Fallon SNL skits where they break character. She's just giggling and laughing like this is another child. Democrats are children. The Democrat elites are children. The Democrat voters are children. But just look at her on stage.
Sick. I like it too. I think what I like about it is that I am.
I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry, folks. I can't do that anymore. Who is paying to go see that on Broadway? The whole show sounds ridiculous. The whole premise of that play sounds ridiculous. And then you got her up there giggling. I do not need to see a Supreme Court justice nominated by Democrats up on a Broadway stage. All right, I got to get to this story. The Hunter Biden saga, it's not going away because the Biden administration refuses to admit they were wrong. This is one of the things that keeps turning American voters off. Sorry, I have a bad back. I got to readjust every now and then. I said from the beginning, I think most Americans would agree, had Joe Biden just pardoned his son to do a nice fatherly thing, we would all not like it, but I think we would have been able to move on. If Joe Biden from the beginning had said, look, I am his dad, he's my last living son, any person in my position would pardon their son if they could. And you know what? I would probably pardon my children the same way. Not that I'm going to raise drug-addicted middle-aged men, but setting that aside, if you were a dad and you had the power of the pen like Joe Biden did to pardon your son, you would probably do it. I think all Americans could agree with that. It wouldn't even be a story. You'd be like, well, we've pardoned worse. We pardoned CCP spies, so there's that. But that's not how it played out. For months, maybe it was years at this point, they always said, KJP said it, Joe Biden said it, Joe's not going to pardon Hunter. We're going to let the system play out. No one is above the law. You had these Democrats in Congress saying Donald Trump is the side that abuses the law. We're the party of morality. We're the party where everybody has to have a trial. Okay, Chauvin. Okay, Penny. So much for that. Okay, J6 protesters. And setting that aside as well, they just told you, no, Hunter's not going to get a pardon from Joe. They said it for months. They led people up until the day of the election thinking he's not going to pardon Hunter. Joe is such a stand-up person. And then he pardoned Hunter. And we all knew it was going to happen. We knew they were lying to us about it. And it wasn't about a father pardoning his son, because that's the new narrative that took place. You would do that too if you were the dad. They pardoned Hunter back to 2014 to cover up all of the alleged, I'm saying alleged, criminal activity between Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, the Biden family, with Ukraine, with other monies from overseas. Hunter Biden had over 200 LLCs because that's normal. So they lied to us about that. And then we started asking questions. The press, they're like, hey, KJP, you said that Joe would never pardon Hunter. What gives? And then I got a clip here. They're like, how can we trust you on anything else? When you lied to us so blatantly about the pardon, why should we trust you again? And let's just take a listen to this interaction here. This is how KJP, and again, all they would have to do is say, we're sorry, we lied to you. Yeah, he was always going to pardon Hunter. It was just election interference, us lying to you about the pardon. He waited till after the election news came in to pardon Hunter. At least they could admit that they were wrong, but there is no admission. There is no apology. Instead, KJP gets mad at them for asking the question, which is a completely fair question. Kudos to the reporter for asking it. Why should we trust you? You lied to us about this. How can we trust you moving forward? Legitimate question. Everything on the up and up, and this is how KJP reacts.
This question, I just didn't hear an answer. The next time that the president says he will or won't do something, why should the American people believe him?
So there it is. If he says he will or won't do something in the future, now we have this to look at. You said you do one thing with Hunter and did the other. So if you say something again, why should we believe you? Totally legitimate question. And here is KJP's meltdown.
Answer that question. I don't have anything else to add. I answered the question.
Can you
I
explain
answered
it
the
in a way
question.
that's understandable?
I can't speak to you understanding the question or not, or my answer or not.
Did you catch that? I can't speak to you understanding my response or not, as if KJP enlightened all us and we're too stupid. Oh, you're right, KJP. You did answer that question. Let me just check my notes here. She is basically calling that reporter stupid. Now, good thing KJP is a black lesbian female, because can you imagine if Trump had a White House press secretary that was a white straight dude and he condescended that Asian lady, that little old Asian lady, just asking a fair question? If a Trump spokesperson acted that way to a reporter, it would be World War III. Trump is mean. He's a racist. He's a sexist. Look at the people in his administration. Look how he treats the press. But because it's KJP, now it's okay. But we're not even halfway through this clip. Let's keep going.
Not on this. I don't have anything else to say. I'm not going to relitigate this. I did that on Monday for 30 minutes. I went back and forth. I laid out. I said, please read the president's really comprehensive statement on this. And I even said the last paragraph of that statement, he talks directly to the American people. And that's how I answered that question.
Folks, I do this for a living. I see lots of clips. I hate myself a little bit because I see too much KJP and I'm just, you get maxed out. You can only watch so much Kamala, so much KJP. Has she ever apologized? I'm asking you. You guys are a smart audience as well. Has she once apologized for lying to the American people about the Hunter Biden pardon? Well, before it was the non-pardon, and then it was the pardon. Has she ever apologized? Has she ever said, look, I was wrong. Yes, I misspoke. Even if she doesn't come out and say, I lied to you, just say, I misspoke. I had bad information. They don't do any of that. They're just doubling down again. They refuse to learn. The American people voted for Donald Trump not as a primary reason, but as one of the many reasons, because they get sick and tired of being lied to by their government, by the media. Here's KJP refusing to say, I'm sorry, I lied to you, I want to regain your trust. Nope, I'm just going to double down. I'm going to call you names. I'm going to infer that you're stupid. My goodness. I have comments coming up on our Facebook feed right now. I can't post them. I can't read them because of the language, but I 100% agree with you. This woman is shameful. And I said before, Jen Psaki was just a demon. Jen Psaki is a vile human being. She spews lies and hate and propaganda on her MSNBC program now. She was at least good at what she did. Like, if you can say anything about Psaki, she was very gifted at lying to you. KJP just comes across as incompetent and mean. And that's what she is. She is incompetent and mean. I hope I can say that on Facebook. But my goodness, they refuse to learn from their election loss. They are unable to learn from their election loss. The American people are so fed up with this condescension, name calling, lying. And what do they do up there in their last month in office? They do all of it. And they do it in such a blatant way. We have you on tape, KJP, saying he would never pardon Hunter. And then he pardoned Hunter, and we're asking you about it. And this is your response. These people are truly despicable. All right, but we're not done yet. I got to get to this clip too. So, folks, I have been wondering for years how Donald Trump is not a gajillionaire for all of the lies spread by corporate media, all the lies spread by his political opponents. And I always wondered, why are there no lawsuits? These are all slam dunk cases. Donald Trump clearly did not call certain folks white, fine people at Charlottesville. He clearly did not collude with Russia. And yet you have all these people out there spreading hoaxes, spreading lies. I would go a step further. I would say it is election interference when it is so blatant a lie and propaganda. And I always wondered, how is he not suing all of them? It is a slam dunk case. And it turns out Donald Trump has been suing them, and he won. He won a $15 million verdict against ABC and George Stephanopoulos. And so he's getting paid. George has to pay $1 million, I think I read, out of his own pocket. And what does the media do? I only have one clip, but they're all melting down. They're saying this is an affront to journalism. We are just reporting the news. We have standards in journalism. Yeah, standards indeed. And they're, instead of being like, maybe we shouldn't lie anymore. Maybe if I'm on The View, I should stop saying things about Gates and Hegseth and Trump because I'm tired of reading these legal notices live on air to retract my previous statements. You would think they would learn, but they don't. They just keep saying the same thing. Here is a clip. After Trump won the lawsuit, ABC is going to fork over $15 million. And this lady goes on there and says the exact same stuff that got George sued.
Like, so, I mean, shout out to the standards department. Okay, standards is always making sure that we are keeping the bar high and substantive and accurate. But
I mean, if you ever need a laugh, just tune into MSNBC and listen to them pat themselves on the back about how they hold themselves to a high standard and have integrity. How do you not laugh at this? Who watches these programs?
What George Stephanopoulos said in that interview, I mean, it seems to hold up with what the judge said after the fact. And now.
Oh, okay then. So what George claimed that he just got sued for because it was wrong, she's out there saying George was right. I don't know this woman's name. It is not important. They're all the same. Trump needs to sue her too. She is going out there spreading the same lie about E. Jean Carroll. A New York City jury, you can find the verdict notes. They asked, is the defendant guilty of the R word? I can't say the R word on Facebook. And the jury said no. Donald Trump got sued in a civil case. It was not decided in a criminal case. Even a woke New York City jury could not go along with the prosecution's claim that the R word happened. And here she is, even after George lost, even after the verdict came out. No. George was right in what he said. Again, sue these hacks into oblivion. They don't learn. They cannot learn. She's just going to go out there and repeat the only little thing that's been plugged into her little tiny brain with the microchip. Hey, you're going to believe this today. And then she's out there making baseless claims again. Again, sue them all.
His news organization and himself, George Stephanopoulos himself, is paying $1 million of his own money to the lawyers, and ABC at $15 million. It's insane.
Yes, totally insane that we got busted for lying. Like, who watches these programs? That's what I'm always trying to figure out. Like, I understand why some of these elites and these journalists, they're out there saying their things because they get a paycheck, but who believes this stuff? Who believes any of what she's saying? It's insane that Trump won a lawsuit because a journalist defamed him. Imagine that you can't just go lie every day. Yeah, I got to bring up this comment from Brian. Brian, thanks for tuning in on Facebook. Head over to Rumble, go to the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. She's not shameful, she's shameless. Yeah, I think I need to make this one of my new things. Like, we need to make shaming great again. Society functions so much better when you're a little cautious about how you present yourself, what you say. We need to make shaming great again. People act much better when they're afraid of reproach, afraid of getting called out. KJP has zero shame. All these leftists have zero shame. That is part of the problem why they are so awful at what they do. They're not afraid of getting called out. They're not afraid of being embarrassed. They cannot be embarrassed. This is not a good thing for society. All right. We got so many Facebook comments. Folks, thanks for tuning in on Facebook. This is why I stream on Facebook. This is where folks are. Again, we got 1 million follower page where we're streaming at the American Tribune. So many patriots out there. And I always like to say, like, you're not alone. It was this election, I think, that finally felt like we had a large community. We could go outside in a MAGA hat. You could tell people you voted for Donald Trump and not worry about it. Before, you're always like, I don't know how my friends vote. I don't know how my families vote. I can't tell them I vote for Donald Trump, even though I didn't care. But that was kind of the culture. Like, you didn't say you voted for Trump. 2024 blew that out of the water. No one is embarrassed anymore. No one's afraid to say that they supported a fantastic president. All good stuff here. Yeah, Lena just writes. Alina, are you trolling us? Folks, don't talk to Alina. She looks like she might be one of those accounts as well. Didn't say anything, so I'm going to let her stay on the channel a little bit longer. Okay, we are going to switch gears to, I got to talk about David Hogg. Oh, I got to censor myself on my comments on David Hogg. So David Hogg came to the public eye after the horrific shooting. It was a horrific school shooting down in Florida, Valentine's Day, several years ago. all terrible things. But David Hogg used that moment to elevate his own platform. He has never done anything of consequence other than campaign and speak about and fundraise on a single issue. And David Hogg likens himself as this like enlightened political advisor, political strategist. Okay, in America, I don't know what to tell you guys. Americans don't want their Second Amendment rights infringed by the government. That's it. Like, end of discussion. Why are we talking about the Second Amendment? Why are you, David Hogg, making it your sole issue? And yes, we all want safe schools. We all want guns out of the hands of bad guys. I mean, if the government, if Democrats, if the media cared about gun control, they would target the illegal handguns in the inner cities where something like 95%, I don't know what the stat is, of all gun crimes occur. It is not the law-abiding rural American typically going out and causing horrific damage, causing horrific mayhem in the American communities. That is just not happening. But then you got folks like David Hogg and the Democrats, and they're saying, we need to take away everybody's guns because that makes America safer. Look, if they were serious, we know where the gun crimes occur. We know who's committing the crimes. We know that they are using illegal guns in a lot of cases. Target them first and show us you're serious. But it's not about that. They don't care what happens in the inner city. It helps bolster a narrative. But instead, David Hogg wants to go out there and take away your guns that are safely locked up in your cabinet that you don't use to hurt anybody. Maybe you go hunting with them. Maybe you have them for self-defense. Those are the guns he wants to take. So you know he is a giant fraud. I brought this clip back to talk about how David Hogg now, this is not him saying it. This is an older clip, but David Hogg has announced he wants to run for Democrat vice chair in the DNC, the Democrat Party vice chair. Absolutely bonkers. Americans will never vote for gun control. Most Americans understand what happens when a government disarms their citizenry, and there are something like 400 million guns in America that you're not going to take. But David Hogg says, you know what? My entire adult life has been shaped by campaigning against guns. And so instead of looking around the landscape and saying, maybe this is a bad policy, maybe this won't help us win elections, maybe the American people don't want gun control, especially from a government that has openly shown how much they hate them and don't care about them. But now he wants to have a bigger voice in the Democrat Party to what? Have a stronger platform on gun control? Like I said, if David Hogg were a serious person, he would target inner cities. He would target the gangs. He would target the handgun use in the inner cities. He would put all those dudes in jail, but he doesn't talk about that. He talks about going after you, my Facebook audience, my Rumble audience, folks like me that have an armament in their house for self-defense purposes or hunting purposes that are not used to hurt people. That's who he wants to go after. But here you go. This is what Democrats are doing. This is who's going to try to be influential in the Democrat Party. David Hogg, never write about anything, and I'm here for it, folks. Like I said, bring it on. I want them to run Kamala. I want them to have David Hogg in a position of authority because it only helps our chances in elections. But here's David Hogg breaking down the mail vote. This is great.
For too long, I think the Democratic Party has had this idea that compassion is kind of a zero-sum game, where somehow if we are talking about the fact that we have a mental health crisis among young men in this country right now, if we're talking about the real needs that young men face, that somehow it's to the detriment of other people, obviously mainly women. And I just don't think that way. I think that we can care about everybody. And I think for too long...
It's the empty... we can care about everybody. He won't get into specifics, but it's just empty pablum like this all the time. There's room for compassion for everybody. No disagreement there. What does that mean, though, David Hogg? Empathy, compassion. Do you have an actual policy that would make sense for people? Do you want to stop lying to people every day? People are so conflicted. Democrats live with cognitive dissonance because you tell them competing things. Like Democrats were out there celebrating the recent assassination of a healthcare CEO, and then the very next breath, they're like, oh, what happened in Wisconsin is proof that we need to have tighter gun control. Like, which one is it? Which one is it?
For too long, there's been a stigma. There's been a stigma around talking about helping, those people, because obviously for thousands of years, talking about men was to the exclusion of women, and I understand the fear around that. But we have to end this taboo, or else it's going to be detrimental to the future of the Democratic Party, because we have to have both men and women.
It really is. I've got to say one other thing too. I told one of my kids. I've got 4 kids, and one of my kids, kind of progressive. I said,
"Oh, I'm shocked there. Joe Scarborough raised a progressive kid. What are the odds?"
When they went off to school, I said, "Don't make sure you don't push the young men into the corner. You go into a pretty liberal place. I also said this to the head of school there. I said, here's the deal. You tell young men that they are suspects because they are young men, because of the sins of men over thousands, like this collective guilt. You push them into the corner, they will come out Trump supporters.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I have one Democrat after another Democrat that's never voted for a Republican before, unlike me, that have said their boys, again, this was back 2016, 17, 18, 19, they would send their 7-year-old boys to school. Their 7-year-old boys would come back with these horror stories about teachers having the boys stand up, the teachers pushing those boys basically into the corner, collective guilt for thousands of years of ways that men fucked up.
Racially, too.
And what happens when you push somebody into the corner? Andrew Sullivan wrote about this. You push a conservative into the corner, or you push a boy into the corner, they come out more radicalized. They come out, in this case, supporting Donald Trump. And that's happened to young.
I touched on this earlier. It bears worth repeating. Notice that they're not talking about actually changing policies. They're just trying to change messaging. They don't disagree with the message. They don't disagree with the policy itself of demonizing young white men specifically. They wonder why young white men supported Donald Trump. Let's see. Because society hates me because I'm a man. Society hates me because I have white skin. Yeah, sins of the father stretching back years. Yes, because only white men have ever committed a wrong in society. God forbid we talk about Africa during the slave trade when Africans captured Africans and sold more slaves to Middle Easterners than they did white Europeans, or the fact that there were more white slaves on the Barbary Coast than America had black slaves. Like, God forbid, we talk about all of history. So yeah, white men bad, sins of your fathers and all this stuff. They don't disagree with that. Notice that he only disagrees with how it's getting messaged. These people refuse to see what is actually happening. I feel like this is just the comment of the day. You can't fix stupid. I think we've seen this a couple times. No, you can't. And it's more than just being stupid. This is what's the right word I'm looking for here? This is just a corrupt religion at this point. It's more than just how they think. At their core, this is a religious worldview. So they don't want to change any tenets of their religion. They just want to change how we message it to have you think like, oh no, this is not actually what we're talking about. David Hogg up there, though, talking about how, oh gosh, yeah, we're losing the male vote. And Morning Joe's over there saying, oh, we're losing the young male vote. No wonder. And imagine for a second, this is how much they hate you. I think most of this audience here voted for Donald Trump. I voted for Donald Trump. We're going to take conservatives. We're going to take these milquetoast Mitt Romney types and turn them into, gasp, Trump supporters. And folks, when I do my voter episode, here's the lead into that episode. How are you not a Trump supporter at this point? They throw around the words radicalized, far right. Those words are now meaningless because they say it so much, but sure, I'll identify as that. How are you not at this point? Who still trusts the government? Who still trusts the media? Who still trusts a Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney Republican? What have they done for you? How are you not supporting Donald Trump enthusiastically at this point? The one person in politics that said the system is corrupt, the media lies to you, we got to clean house, drain the swamp. How are you not there at this point? Like, how do you still trust the government? But it is mind-blowing to listen to their analysis here and say, you know what, let's just change how we talk about these things. They're all true. They're all true. White men are bad because throughout human history, white men are uniquely evil and have done horrors, just white men. So that's all true. But how do we change the messaging around that? Again, and they're going to wonder why they lose even more young male votes in the 2028 election because they still believe it. Like, they still believe it. They will act on that. They will talk about it maybe in a different way because messaging, how do we just message these people differently? But they're not going to change how they actually feel, what they actually think about it. And that's going to come through in their work. You're going to see it in their actions. You're going to see it in the policies they present. Absolutely insane. And again, I'm here for it. Bring it on, guys. Don't learn from your mistakes. Again, they are unable to learn from their mistakes. And so they're going to wonder in 4 years, how did we lose again? Well, it's stuff like this right here. This is why you keep losing, because you are unable to see, unable to comprehend what we are saying. Donald Trump is popular because he speaks to us. He says, your government's corrupt. Your media is corrupt. And that's all true. That's all true. All you have to do is accept those two premises, and you're like, okay, I can get aboard with Donald Trump now because, yeah, they do lie to me. They don't care about me. Joe Biden, I often say this as well. I'll say it again here for our new Facebook audience. Joe Biden, for years, called MAGA the single greatest domestic terror threat to this country, which is completely absurd on its face. And people would use that as an example to say, see, Joe Biden hates Trump supporters. And yes, that is true. But where they get it wrong is it's not just Trump supporters. Name a single policy Joe Biden enacted that helped any American. Joe Biden doesn't just have apathy, disregard for Trump supporters. He has it for every single American. By extension, that is how Democrats operate. They are trying to win votes, get in power, and that's it. Make their little inner circle happy, but they're not interested in making policies, enacting policies, passing legislation that helps you, the American citizen. When Donald Trump is out there saying, again, the media hoax about speaking to women, I'm going to do things whether they like it or not. The media ran with that. Oh, look at, he's a misogynist. He's going to control women. Donald Trump's policies will help everybody. That's why I always say you're welcome. But these folks, their policies hurt every American. So it's not enough to say they're going after conservatives. Yeah, they'll target them and make them the boogeyman. But make no mistake, Democrat policies hurt everybody. Open borders, endless wars, higher taxation, more crime. Like, even if you voted Democrat, how are these policies helping you? Yeah, Cindy learned from their mistakes. Yeah, point of the episode, Cindy, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for commenting. They will never learn because we have to say they cannot learn. The hallmark of leftism is the lack of self-reflection, lack of honesty. And without those to guide you, how will you learn? You're unable to learn right now. They think that we made mistakes voting for Donald Trump. They think their religion is correct. They think their policies are correct. So they're not going to change their policies. And then they're going to keep losing elections. And we get in this hilarious cycle at this point because you're watching all these media types, all these politicians on the Democrat side cope saying, gosh, how are we losing all these Americans? All these Americans are stupid. They can't vote in their best interest. So we're going to double down on open borders, double down on all these awful policies, and just message it differently. Completely hopeless. All right, we're running up on an hour here. I got a few more clips to talk about as we talk about the inability to learn from their mistakes. These Democrats are just running on, we need more government, and we need to just convince people that more government is better for them. Even though this election, we want a Doge. Donald Trump campaigned on government efficiency. When Ron Paul got named to help Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, Trump got a ton of libertarian votes because they're like, yes, maybe I don't like Donald Trump. Maybe he did too much government spending. He grew the size of government. I'm a libertarian. RD doesn't matter. I want smaller government. And then Donald Trump said Ron Paul is going to have a say in how we shrink government. And folks are like, yes, Ron Paul for the win. Take a look at some of these graphics here. And then we'll lead off with Gavin Newsom talking about Doge. And then I'm going to show a few graphics to talk about just where we are at. Here's Newsom, though, saying that he did Doge before Doge was a thing. And then I'm going to show some numbers, and then we can fact check Gavin together.
We've been working, I don't know, before Doge was Doge. I don't know what this is, just like a promo project. We've been doing civil service reform in this state. We've been consolidating job classifications. We've been updating job descriptions in this state, and we waived those requirements. And in fact, I think it was in August, earlier August, we came up with your shop. We're going to double that next year. In fact, by 32,000, it'll be 62,000 positions. We will have eliminated those barriers and that requirement. So California's been a leader in that space.
When people think Gavin Newsom in California, does anybody think government efficiency and small government? Again, my California Democrat voters in the chat, let me know, is that how California operates? Because I can see Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, I can see other giant businesses fleeing California because the regulations are so insane. God forbid you dam up a stream where the smelt live, but no, you cannot do any of these business operations because the smelt and how much red tape do you have to deal with? Nobody thinks of government efficiency, small government when it comes to California. Nobody. It's a beautiful state. You have lots of red counties, but the state itself is managed by a supermajority of Democrats, and you pay insane taxes. No, there is no efficiency in California. I'm going to highlight this graph right here. If you're on audio, I'm going to kind of walk you through what we're looking at here. When it comes to just homelessness, I pulled up this example to cite just one example out of endless because I can't think of a single thing California has done efficiently with government. This is looking at how they tackle homelessness. You can see in the graphic in 2016, they spent just over $200 million on the homeless. And now this is just San Francisco homelessness. You can see the population is like 12,000 unhoused, they like to call them now. Yeah, the unhoused. And then you can see all that money filling in. By 2021, they were spending over $1 billion on just the homelessness issue. And you can see San Francisco's homeless population jump to the 19,000. And so citing this as an example to say the more government spent on homelessness, the more homeless people we got. How is that helping? How is that shrinking government? He quintupled the spending just on homelessness in California, and rather than solve the problem, rather than address any problems, all they got were more homeless people. And why wouldn't they? Where you put the money, you're not solving a problem by spending money. You are enabling the problem to flourish because there's more money there. Have we helped any homeless people in California? Do they have homes now? From the graph here, it doesn't seem like it. But again, to cite the example of Doge would do the opposite. Doge would say, you don't get any money to be homeless. Figure it out. Go seek treatment for your drug addiction. Go seek treatment for your mental health crisis. But you're not living here off of free tax money to perpetuate this cycle. When you go to all these, I got to pull up the story too. California, I think it was in California, they built a beautiful apartment complex. We'll call it an apartment complex. And they had this grand idea of having all of the homeless moved off the street and into, again, a luxurious apartment complex. If I lived in apartment complexes when I was young, they were not nice because I could not afford them. What these dudes got put up in, and you can say the same thing with illegals. I think the illegals are in the plaza. I forget the name of the hotel in New York City that Adams put them up, but we're paying like $200 million a year just for that hotel. But these dudes move in, and rather than turn their life around, rather than saying, thank goodness, I have stable housing, I will now use my free rent to go get a job, work a 9 to 5, raise a family. Do you know what happened in that nice apartment building? And this could be any apartment building. They trashed it. And no wonder. These people weren't interested in necessarily having a nice house to live. That was not the reason they were in dire straits. They still had drug addiction. They were still dirty. They still committed crimes. They were still mentally unwell. Putting a roof over their head, a nice roof at that, did not solve the problem because it doesn't address, well, I now make, whenever you say root causes, I can't help but think of Kamala Harris now, the root cause of the immigration crisis. Maybe it's because we invite them all in and fly them all in. Spending money doesn't solve the problem. Spending more government money creates a larger problem because now there's just more incentive to be homeless. Take a look at this graph. This is now federal spending, I think, on education. The same logic applies. This is how Dems refuse to learn from their mistakes. You can't throw money at these problems and just think they go away. This graph right here talks about education spending versus achievement. You can see how much more money we have spent per pupil. I think when it's averaged across all 50 states, I think we spend something like $15,000 per kid annually. And what has that gotten us? You can look at the graph down below. Certainly not improved math scores, reading scores. All the problems that they were trying to throw money at still exist. And again, no wonder, because you can't just spend your way out of problems. You actually have to address the real issue. Why aren't kids learning? Maybe it's because their home environment between the ages of 0 and 5 are so lacking. By the time they get to the school system, it doesn't matter. If parents don't read to their kids, don't talk to their kids, if they don't engage with their kids and engage with other family members in an appropriate way, those kids go to school not knowing how to read, not knowing how to act, and no amount of government money is going to fix that problem by the time they're 6 years old in kindergarten, because by then it is too late. But the government, the media, they won't address that. Democrat voters won't address that. They think if we just spend more money on kids, we will make up for the awful home environment, the neglectful home environment. Kids go on screens, but from the time they are born to the time they enter school, they wake up with screens, they go to bed with screens, they don't have parents interact with them, they don't get outside, they don't play with their family members, they don't see mom and dad speaking appropriately to one another. But sure, but for those 8 hours a day when they're at school, let's just spend more money on them, and that'll fix the problem. Take a look at this other graphic as it relates to the education here. Do you know where all the money goes when you spend it on education? Not to teachers, not to classroom sizes. And I am not advocating for higher teacher pay. Far from it. I think we should abolish every Department of Education, federal and state level. You need to privatize the entire system. That is where I am at this point. Let me go back to this graph for a second. I talked about how it was $15,000 spent annually on a kid. Where I am looking, because I refuse to send my kid to a public school when they are of age, if they go to school, it will be a private school. And do you know what that private school costs? $6,000. How is it that a private school where I'm looking at can spend $6,000 and the government decided that we need to spend $15,000 per kids for less education, for a worse education, to be thrown in the mix with kids that do not want to be there, do not belong to be there, disrupt their classrooms every day? Education, I'm looking at my neighborhood. It looks like it should cost no more than $6,000 for a private school. Government schools do not need to exist, period. But instead, they throw more money at it. And here's how Dems refuse to learn. They say, oh, reading scores are low, math scores are low. Even though we've doubled, tripled, quadrupled the amount of spending, let's just quintuple it, and that will solve the problem. And even when they send more money in schools, and look, folks, I was a former assistant principal. I know how the game works. It doesn't go to smaller class sizes, which is it. If you're going to spend any more money, and again, I'm not proposing it, but if you are going to throw more money at schools, how about you make the classes smaller? And instead, all it does is it adds to the administrative bloat. Your kid in the government school system still has 30 youngsters in their room wreaking havoc, not being able to manage the classroom, not getting time spent with your kid. That teacher is still dealing with a ton of dudes that they shouldn't have to. But good thing you have another position at the district office. Good thing you gave your assistant principal a raise. Good thing you hired another assistant principal. Doesn't affect what happens in the classroom, but there's more money there now. Absolute fraud. It is all a fraud. Folks, if there's one takeaway from Dems not refusing to learn from their mistakes with these two graphics, you can look at the spending of homelessness. You can look at the spending of school. Dems are operating under the mindset that we just need more money spent on these programs, and then it'll get fixed. Hasn't been fixed yet, but maybe if we spend even more money, then magically that'll solve the problem. So that's where we're at. This is where Democrats are at nowadays. They want to continue to have Kamala Harris in the spotlight. They want to advocate for spending more of your money, and they're going to lie to you and say that more money helps solve the problem. They want to put people like David Hogg in the DNC, and I don't know if Democrats themselves want David Hogg in that position. He is certainly angling for it, but I think that says enough already. The fact that we're even listening to him or taking this seriously, or he thinks he has a chance to become the vice chair of the DNC, they have nothing, folks. Democrats refuse. They are unable to learn from their mistakes. It is glorious. I love watching this happen. I am all here for it. I wish, in a perfect world, and I'm not all for like 10 political parties, because you inevitably end up with coalitions that are left-leaning. That is no good. Get that out of your head right now. We do not want lots of political parties, because you can see how it functions in Europe and in Canada. All these coalitions, their only interest is coalescing into the group with the most power. It's not about serving your interests, so that's not good. And then you have a harder time voting them out because there's too many coalitions to begin with. Justin Trudeau got like, I'm going to have to, I don't know the numbers, folks. I'm going to say 20% because I don't know. But he remained prime minister in Canada because all the other leftist coalitions agreed to vote for him as PM again. So you don't want that. In a perfect world, we'd have two parties. One would be center right, and one would be far right, to use the word of the left. I don't know what far right means to them anymore. To me, far right just means common sense. Like, if you're not there, if you're not radicalized enough, then you need to do a little bit more educating until you get there. But that's where we'd be at. We would be debating center right, far right policies, and our government would be consistently far right. The American electorate would be consistently far right. That's not what we have. Instead, we have communism from the Democrat Party and a little dose of sanity within the America First movement. And then in the middle, you've got sellout rhinos that, for all intents and purposes, are Democrats at this point. I don't think there's any more debate about that. You don't get to campaign every 4 years on protecting the life of the unborn and then sell us out to corporate interests, special interests, lobbyists, voting alongside Democrats, telling us that you're going to refuse to confirm Trump's nominees. Like, that doesn't work anymore. So they're all Democrats over there. You're either a center-left Democrat or a communist Democrat, and then we got a sliver of hope within the America First movement. But I am all here for it. If Democrats want to play this game and refuse to learn, cannot be able to learn, they want to put Ketanji Brown Jackson in a Broadway play. They want to keep trotting out Kamala Harris. They want to talk about how Gavin Newsom is shrinking government in California. By all means, because the Americans that voted for Donald Trump are not going to leave the Trump team if that is the alternative. And you get more of these just normie Democrats, and I always use my friends and family members as an example. Like, they're good people. they're good enough people. They don't pay attention to politics because they spend time waking up early to go to work and commuting and thinking that they're making a difference sitting in a cubicle, go home, drive the kids to sports or whatever, hang out with family and members and friends on the weekends. Like, those people at some point are going to be like, gosh, seems like more and more people are talking about how the media lies. These Democrat policies are awful. Like, I like my retirement account. I don't want to get taxed on unrealized gains. I like the equity in my house. I don't want to get taxed on unrealized gains. I don't want to have an open border because my kids I moved to this school district because I was told it was a good school. And by good school, you just mean it usually has other families with the same values as you. It has nothing to do with spending or whatever else. Eventually, they're going to be like, my kid's classroom is half English language learners, and the classrooms get disrupted every day with dudes throwing chairs. I will do an entire episode at some point. I promise. I have yet to do it. Just detailing the horror stories of the public school system when I was an assistant principal there, when I was a teacher there. They're going to wake up too. So we're only going to add more support for the America First movement because, again, in 4 years, we're going to have a more secure border. We're going to have a grasp on government size and spending. We're going to stop these conflicts overseas. We're going to put bad guys in jail. Even these normie Dems that have been convinced because they watch late night comedy shows or they still think CNN tells them the truth, they're going to be like, I know they're saying that, but that's not the reality that I see anymore. They're going to keep waking up. We will continue to wake more people up. Our size will remain the same and then only grow. And then on the other hand, you got Dems pushing David Hogg, Kamala Harris, more communism, more government spending, more redistribution of wealth, and it's just not going to work anymore. So I'm extremely optimistic about the future, and I'm all here for the implosion of the Democrat Party because they are not learning. They're just going to push forward with these same insane policies, and it just doesn't resonate anymore. All right, folks, with that being said, we have been going strong for an hour 17 by my count. I got to say, I love streaming on Facebook today. I think we're still streaming on Facebook. I don't think we got too spicy. But my Facebook comments, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for commenting in the chat below. We are a live show, so your comments get fed there in real time. Great to interact with you all. If you are watching on Facebook, I got to do the PSA one more time before we head out. Head over to Rumble. You can download the app. It is just like YouTube, just a video player. Get the Rumble app. It's got the desktop version. You go to rumble.com. Search out the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. I do a live show every Tuesday and Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Central. And then if you really want to see more of me, you can head over to our main channel at just the American Tribune. I do a podcast, again, a live podcast with one of my business partners every Friday at 10 a.m. Central Time. That is called Freedom from the Press. But with that being said, folks, wow, this hour and 17 went fast today. It is so much fun talking about how Democrats are just doubling down on losing positions. I mean, on one hand, I hate that they promote these positions. Why are we even talking about this? In what world does it make sense that Joe Biden is president for 4 years and his vice president gets 48% of the vote when they utterly destroyed this country through open borders, sending all of your tax dollars overseas to promote just the worst sort of chaos in other communities? Daniel Penny was almost thrown in jail because of these insane policies. How about folks like Jordan Ely are just in prison in the first place? But we can't have that. But so many things happened in this country, and 48% of the country voted for more of it. So I am not celebrating the fact that they exist. But I think we can find a little glimmer of hope in the fact that they're just going to keep doing what they do. And we don't need every American woken up. I would love to see every American just be like, I'm done with this. Like, this is insane. This is communism. I don't want that. I don't think we'll ever get there, but we just need enough Americans woken up a little bit more every day to make sure that the America First movement remains in power in the White House, in the Senate, in the House, on the Supreme Court, and good things will continue to happen. And you know what? We'll just keep saying, you're welcome, Dem voters. You're welcome for making your life better. You wanted Big Daddy government to continue ruining your life. I saved you from yourself. I voted for Donald Trump. You are welcome. Cindy writes, please do more on Facebook. Cindy, we will be back on Facebook. Most of the topics I cover, I like to talk about what's going on in the news, like to break it down. I like to get on here and rant. My podcast partner and I say that it is a little bit cathartic. It is freeing to just get this off of our chests. It helps to put it out there in the universe, talk about it a little bit, go on with our day here. I will definitely be back on Facebook. Again, you're on the American Tribune Facebook page. We have 15 Facebook pages with 1 million or so followers. I'll try to stream on some of those as well. We'll get some more folks in the chat. But Cindy, be sure to come back at 9:30 on Thursday. We'll be back doing our show. And again, I got to make a plug. Rumble. the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. That's where we host the show. We're trying to build our Rumble platform because then we can talk about whatever we want and not have to tiptoe around certain subjects. But with that being said, folks, I appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate your comments. If you like the content or you have people in your life that voted for Kamala Harris, are still under the impression that Donald Trump is uniquely unqualified to be president because he's not befitting of the White House, and then you're just like, none of these politicians are. How about they're a stain on our entire government and country? Every single one of these corrupt politicians in D.C. Share this content with them. I am not mean to Democrats. I welcome their conversation. I would love to see some comments in the chat from our Democrat voters saying, Todd, this is where you're wrong. I will politely point out how they are wrong and are operating under the inception fed to them through brainwashing and propaganda. But I welcome those conversations as well, and I love to change minds. So, folks, share this content with your family members and friends and neighbors, maybe your church colleagues, your church friends that are still voting Democrat because it makes them feel good. We got to wake them up and say, you know what, your policies might make you feel good, but they do horrible things for everybody around you. But with that being said, long epilogue here. We are signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again at 9:30 Central on Thursday at the American Tribune Live. Catch you then.